Let me tell you something that I've watched happen more times than I can count. Someone smart, like genuinely intelligent, successful in their career, good at making decisions, walks into a real estate seminar, and they walk out with a 10, 25, $50,000 charge on their credit card they weren't planning to touch. And 3 months later, they're sitting at their kitchen table, going through the material and slowly realizing, this is it. This is what I paid for. Information I could have found for free, repackaged inside a really well-produced experience. And the worst part, they can't even be mad about it, because in the room, it made complete sense. And that feeling, that specific feeling of making complete sense in the moment, is exactly what I want to pull apart today. Because it's not accidental, it's engineered. And once you see how it works, you're going to look at this entire industry differently. But before I get into it, I want to be upfront about this. I'm not here to tell you that everyone in this space is running a scam. That's not what this is. There are people in real estate education who are the real thing, who've actually done the deals, who teach from genuine experience, who charge fair prices for real depth. Those people exist and I respect what they do. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about a specific model. One where the business depends entirely on you feeling behind, feeling stuck, feeling like you're one room away from finally figuring it out. That's the model I want to break down, because once you see it clearly, you stop being a target for it. Here's the core of it. Tied to get real estate education is almost never sold on information. The information is kind of beside the point. It's sold on identity. It's sold on certainty. It's sold on the feeling that this, finally, is the thing that closes the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And once you understand that, the whole machine starts making a lot more sense. Because here's what's actually happening in that room. The person on stage isn't trying to answer the question, is this information worth $10,000 or more? They're trying to make you ask a completely different question. What is it costing me to keep waiting? Those are not the same question. And the second one is way more emotionally dangerous. When you're comparing the price to pain, to the delay, the confusion, the embarrassment of still being on the sidelines, the numbers start feeling small. And that's the pitch. That's what's being engineered. And smart people are actually more vulnerable to it, not less. Because smart people are really good at rationalizing emotional decisions after they've already made them. You talked yourself into it, and then you immediately build a case for why you were right. And by the time you realize the underlying information wasn't that proprietary, you've already been through the program. Now, here's where I want to stop and ask you something directly. If you've been to one of these events, or you're thinking about going to one, be honest with yourself for a second. Why? Is it because you have a specific gap you need filled and this program fills it? Or is it because you're hoping the room does something for you that you haven't been able to do on your own? Those are two very different reasons to spend money. And most people don't stop long enough to figure out which one is actually driving them. Because if you have a specific gap, if you need accountability or access to a specific type of deal, or you genuinely need someone who's done what you want to do to look at your numbers, that's a real reason. Pay for it. Find the right person and pay for it. But if you're just hoping the environment changes something in you that you haven't been able to change yourself, that's not a knowledge program. And spending $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 or more on it isn't going to fix it. The second thing that gets people is the packaging. And I want to be fair here because some of this is legitimate. Think about what gets stacked around the core content in one of these offers: community, coaching calls, templates, scripts, accountability, access, proximity to the mentor, implementation support, or exclusivity. Community matters. Accountability matters. Having someone to call when a deal gets weird and you don't know what to do, that genuinely matters. But here's where it goes sideways. I know someone who paid $25,000 for Real Estate Mastermind, and the core framework they came home with, the actual investment strategy, the deal analysis approach, the criteria, was available in a book that cost $38 on Amazon. I'm not exaggerating. The book was even referenced inside the program. The information wasn't the product. The packaging was the product. And the packaging was so good that they couldn't see that until they were already home. That's where people get burned. They confuse the emotional experience of the sale with the depth of the knowledge, and those are two completely different things. Here's the one that took me the longest to really appreciate. Authority transfers incredibly fast in a live environment. Get the room right. Get the energy right. Get the testimonials sequenced correctly. Get the right person on stage at the right moment with the right story, and something shifts in the audience. Skepticism starts weakening, not because the claims got stronger, but because the social environment made doubt feel like the wrong move. You watch who's nodding. You watch who's already walking to the back of the room. You watch who's tearing up during the testimonial. And without realizing it, hesitation starts to feel like self-betrayal. That's when people say things like, "I just need to commit to this. I can't afford not to do this. I'm tired of playing small." And maybe sometimes that's real conviction, but sometimes it's borrowed emotion. And borrowed emotion has a very short shelf life. The credit card charge doesn't. Now the compression argument, this is what I find most interesting, because on the surface it's actually legitimate. The promises here are years of trials and error, packaged into a faster path. You don't have to make the mistakes I did. That's worth paying for, and sometimes it genuinely is. But compression becomes a lie when it quietly starts implying you can skip the hard parts. That you can skip building real judgment. That you can skip the slow accumulation of pattern recognition that only comes through doing deals, being wrong, figuring out why, and doing another one. Here's what I mean. You can't buy the moment where the deal is falling apart and you have to figure out how to save it. That's where actual deal instincts come from. No tuition covers that. You can't bundle discernment into a program. You can't shortcut your way to confidence that only comes from reps. And when people mistake purchased access for earned competence, which happens constantly, disappointment shows up about 6 months after the excitement wears off. Every time. Last one, and it's the simplest, but almost nobody actually stops to think about it. High price does not automatically mean high def. I've seen 2 programs in this space, one priced at $3,000, one at $27,000, teaching the exact same exit strategy, the same framework, the same terminology, the same sequence. One of them just had better branding, a bigger stage, and a more polished sales process. That's it. That was the difference. A high price can mean better support. better community, better production, all of those things. But it doesn't mean the underlying information is deeper, rarer, or more useful than what you can find elsewhere for a fraction of the cost. Most buyers never separate those two things. They ask, how much is it? When a better question is, what exactly am I paying for? Am I paying for technical depth, for accountability, for environment, for brand prestige, or for certainty? Those are very different things. And until you can answer that clearly, before you hand over a card, overpaying is almost always guaranteed. So stop asking whether the speaker is convincing. Ask whether the process they're teaching is actually repeatable. Stop asking whether the room feels powerful. Ask whether the business model behind the offer is clear. Stop asking whether other people are buying. Ask whether you can explain in plain terms what you're getting before you buy it. The room isn't selling you a strategy. It's selling you a version of yourself you're afraid you'll never become without it. And that's a much harder thing to say no to. And look, I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're watching this and going, okay, Seminar Insider, but you're selling something too. The Vault is a paid product. So how is this any different from what you're criticizing? Fair question. And I'd rather you ask than not. Here's my answer. Go find what was built on Seminar Insider website. It's all public. It's all there. It's all straightforward. Check for yourself, because that's the only question that actually matters. Not how polished the pitch is. Not how confident the presenter sounds. What did this person actually build that will take me to that next level? Either you have the receipts or you don't. That's exactly why I put the Vault together. Not to sell you a room, not to sell you a feeling, but to give you the actual framework for how these deals work before you walk into one of those environments. So you go in with your eyes open instead of your wallets open. The link is in the description if you want it.